Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at my favorite game to come out of 2019, and that's Cthulhu, Death May Die. Hey YouTube, this is Peck Tech, and I got a lot of games last year. I got a lot of games, and I've gotten to play most of them. Now, as always, my great hope would be that I would really enjoy every game that I got, but especially this one because it was a little bit more expensive than the others. Simon has a pretty decent track record, in my opinion, of putting out some pretty fun games. In particular, last year I got really enamored with Rising Sun and really enjoyed playing that. This is the kind of game that I think a lot of people would have passed on, or probably not noticed in all the noise at Kickstarter, and not for a very, let's say, eye-catching prospect. And that would be the inclusion of this guy. Yes, that's right. Cthulhu himself makes an appearance, and probably, I guess this would be closer to his full size, as you invade his land in an attempt to stop him halfway through. Now, this was an optional buy. This was one of the possible Kickstarter options you could have. And it does come with its own little scenario. It's got slightly different rules, but is really kind of fascinating. I've just opened this up and punched it out and kind of read the rules. I'd like to do a playthrough. I'd be curious to know if you guys would be interested in seeing a full playthrough of this particular level with the big Cthulhu. But don't despair. If you didn't get this, it's no big deal. In fact, I've only just painted this maybe a couple of weeks ago. So the base game for this has tons to offer, and it's really interesting, and I'm going to show you that today. If you did get the Kickstarter, it comes with this box, which is called the Unspeakable box, which comes with a lot more heroes. Some are pretty good, some are not as interesting. I do especially like Albert Einstein as a miniature. I had fun. I ended up painting all of this as well as all of the base set. Optional buys for this include Season 2, which doesn't include any more Elder Gods to face. More on that in a minute. But does include a lot more scenarios and even more monsters. I haven't even started painting on this one yet. Even opening this box, you can see that it's very well thought out, very well organized, and is actually fairly decent as far as getting it to the table without a lot of hassle. Really, the modular nature of this game makes packing it up kind of a breeze, and I really like that. Makes it so much easier to want to get this game out and play it when you can just kind of easily put it away and pull it out another time. It comes with a number of these player cards, which are the different characters. Every character has a unique ability at the top, and then 2 abilities that are kind of stored in this pool of abilities. I think there's about 6 different ones. And those are sort of randomized. Well, they go along with the characters. But you got 1 unique and 2 from this kind of pool of 6 different options for character cards. And as you can see, even in the base game, there's a lot of different options and people you can be. It's got a rule book that was really well thought out and easily put together with a rule summary on the back, which to me is essential for any good game. It's got a player board, which kind of tracks the different things. I'm not going to go over the rules for that. That's been done a lot of times. So this will be kind of just an overview of what you can expect inside of this game. When you open the box, you can see this has been packed and unpacked many, many times. And it looks very similar to when I first opened it. So that is a good sign right off the bat. This didn't have like the unruly, obviously needing to be replaced inserts that come with so many things like, Rising Sun. Rising Sun, I ended up throwing all that stuff away, and I bought a wooden insert just so I could get the stuff in and out for a game without it taking half an hour. This is very easy. You got a stack of scenarios, which are these little small boxes, and then you got the 2 Elder Gods. So you pick one of these, and one of these, and a hero, and you're pretty much good to go. This will tell you what other monsters, which are layered under here and right here, this will tell you what other monsters you'll need. Usually this guy, whichever one of these, you've got Hastur and Cthulhu in the core box. And so whichever one of these you pick, it also comes with his little minion inside. So you've got a monster and a one or two, like Hastur has some cultist guys, and Cthulhu has the star spawn. That's Cthulhu, yeah. Cthulhu has a star spawn. But you basically mix the cards that come with this. This will have the scenario, any scenario specific tokens. Every scenario is a little different. They'll have like maybe a special rule that you have to follow. So you'll find in each of these packs of episodes, you'll get a map to tell you how to lay out the initial setup for the game. And then you'll get some flavor text that kind of puts you in the mood for the game. Special rules that are usually bad that are used against you in the game up here, and special actions that you'll need to do to fulfill the scenario in general. Also, each of these packs gets its own set of mythos cards that are specific to a particular scenario and have things that happen more specifically to this scenario, and they're mixed in with the mythos cards from the elder ones over here. It'll also have its own set of monsters here that'll be added in, and these are monsters that are specific to this scenario, and they all kind of go along with what's going on there. Each scenario also has its own set of tokens, and some like these denote specific places on the map that go with the scenario, and other things like this could be objectives or other things that happen in a particular scenario. And all of these have different versions of these things. I haven't seen a lot of overlap with the map tiles. The map tiles are double-sided, so you could get something on either side of it. Also, each scenario comes with its own set of discovery cards, and of course, yes, these go along. These are things that you can find. You can pick up and find and add to your characters in a particular scenario. And these two are very specific for the particular scenario. There are things that go along with it, things that can cause you problems, and things that can help you in a particular scenario. So these are all unique to each individual session. And of course, in the base game, you'll have 6 different versions of these. I have found that they're different every time I play them. Like, I'll discover new things or new ways to do things. So it definitely hasn't gotten boring yet, even when I've had to replay a scenario. But all of these have felt like completely different games. And what's great is, if you pick a different Elder God, you can either do these two, and whether you do these two or you go with this guy, you can pick which is the Black Goat of the Woods. I don't think I mentioned that. So basically, you pluck one of these boxes out. You pluck a scenario out. You pick a hero that you'd like to be, and then your friends do the same. Pull out the miniatures for it, and you're basically ready to go. Now, underneath all these boxes are map tiles, and they're all numbered like alphanumerically, and it's pretty easy to put them together. A lot of the maps are fairly small too. They're not huge, sprawling maps. So it's not difficult at all to pull out the tiles that you need and kind of quickly set up. I'd say setup for this is maybe 10-15 minutes, especially after you've done it a few times. The artwork on the map tiles is very good. It's got a nice thick cardboard. Each of these tiles has a little number or alphanumeric in the corner, which makes it really easy to lay these out when you've got a map to set up. And there are a lot of different sizes. The artwork on them, of course, is really good. Makes them all really interesting. And there's not a ton of these in the box, but the maps do tend to be small. There is enough to where you can make quite a few interesting scenarios. And it packs up really easy too, just like the rest of the game. Now, like so many Cool Mini or Not games, the miniatures for this were really interesting. Some of them seem to be plucked through classic historical characters who probably don't have a copyright on them. Others are completely mythical. I had a lot of fun painting these. For one, they're fully constructed. Now, if you're real hardcore, you probably want to go in and take out some mold lines. But all these things come completely assembled, which saves you a great deal of time if you're a miniatures painter. Now, of course, these aren't the super high detail that you might see of like your typical Games Workshop or perhaps War Machine type miniatures. It's not quite up to that level of detail, but that makes it so much easier to paint. Painting these things was great because basically you're painting regular clothes on people. Painting stuff like that, it reminds me a lot, and that reminds me a lot of like the Walking Dead characters that I painted. I was flying through them and I was kind of wondering why. I was like, why is this so much easier? It's because he's wearing khaki pants and a t-shirt and not some grandiose thing with skulls every few inches. That being said, the characters were pretty detailed and very interesting. They all had kind of unique ways about them. There's lots of very clear art. I really appreciate that too. There's lots of really clear art in the way of these sheets, so you can see exactly what the original artist thought the colors should be. And I pretty much went by that when I was making my decisions on how to paint them. For these miniatures, I mostly use contrast paint. It's my first time using the Games Workshop contrast paint. I'd gotten a couple of bottles to experiment with, and I just kind of ran with it. I ended up getting more and more bottles of contrast paint, and I've used them to do most of these miniatures, even the big guy. Another thing I've discovered is really easy to paint is monsters, as monsters tend to be naked. They don't have a lot of complexity in terms of clothes and stuff like that. So mostly is like finding all the eyeballs was a big challenge. I did my initial playthrough with this unpainted, and just to kind of try it out. And everything's kind of in line to be painted. My goal is to eventually paint everything I own, but as you can see, it's going to be challenging. I played this a couple of times. The very first scenario with my wife, it actually took us about 4 times going through this game before we beat it. Before we got a hold of it enough to beat the initial scenario, which to me is one of the hardest scenarios. It doesn't start you off easy. It puts you in a pretty challenging situation right away. There's a fair amount of luck with this, in that it is kind of a dice chucking game. But after you sort of get used to the way it is, you can manipulate the odds in your favor by slowly going mad. In this game, you have a track along the top. And along this track, every so often, there'll be a little icon where you can go a little bit more crazy. And as you do, you can level up these skills that we mentioned below. You can't really win a scenario, we've discovered, if you're too wimpy about going ahead and going crazy. But if you get all the way to the other side, you die. So there really is a lot of balancing to sort of figure out for your own character as far as like how powerful they get and how crazy they get. In so many of these scenarios, we've won literally on the last round, the last possible moment. One of our characters defeats the Elder God, and that's the end of the game. And if it had gone one more round, that character would be dead. That has happened on so many of these. Like it's a very reoccurring thing where if you do win, you barely win. It really made this game so much more interesting than a lot of other cooperative co-op dungeon crawler type games, and it makes every game very thrilling and entertaining. You definitely don't have to be a hardcore gamer to really enjoy this game. Although this is based on some H.P. Lovecraft stories, and a lot of his work is very, very scary. This also is something that you could probably play with younger players without it being too big a deal. I purposely skipped over a lot of core mechanisms of the game. I'll leave you to discover those on your own. There's a lot of other people out there making videos for this, of course. And I feel like that's all been covered. So I wanted to keep this maybe a shorter video, just telling you about my favorite things, which are the modularity of this game, the miniatures that were very easy to paint and yet very nice and fun characters, and how challenging this game is for something that's so easy to learn. One of my favorite things about this game and so many other games is that all the stuff you need to know is written here. The whole turn sequence is right there on your character board. And a lot of the rest of the things you need to know are on the individual cards that come with each individual episode and on the monster cards themselves. So all that information is out there and available and really easy to reference. I hardly ever, after maybe a game or two, I don't ever really pick this up. I never look inside. I might occasionally refer to the back. There are, of course, unique situations that come up where you'll have to refer to the rule book or BGG. But I found it to be very small. And I haven't seen a terribly large amount of errata for this either, which means that they've obviously play tested it pretty thoroughly. Now you might ask, is it worth going and finding the Unspeakable box for the Kickstarter? Let's just take a quick look inside, just so you know what's possible. One of the neater things that came with the Unspeakable box is these little trays. Now these are kind of cheapo plastic trays, but they fit over the character cards, and they give the little game tokens kind of somewhere to rest inside. It does come with 2 more Elder Gods to fight. You've got the Yogg Sloggoth and a Dagon. Dagon. It also, of course, comes with tons more characters, like really a lot more characters you can play. Some of them are pretty neat. I haven't played with actually any of these characters yet. I've seen some playthroughs with some of them. I've gone through and looked at a lot of them, and some of them look pretty neat. It comes with 3 more episodes. These are kind of bigger episodes called Lost episodes that actually have some more miniatures inside, which are mostly other types of cultists. And then it's got one of these, which is more the traditional small scenario pack, which is very reminiscent of the rest of the ones that are in here. I have played against one of these Elder Gods, just to kind of mix things up. We pulled one out of here and played with him, and it was pretty neat. That was the Yogg Sloggoth, which I believe I've heard rumors will eventually be an extra one you can buy, similar to this guy. So if you really love this game, you can track this down. You get 3 more episodes, 2 more Elder Gods, and a whole lot of characters. And of course these trays, which are actually pretty nice. But unless you're one of those all-in types, I would definitely get the base game, go ahead and play it a few times, see how much you really love it. I have no idea what the Kickstarter Extras box is going for on the black market, eBay or whatever. But Season 2, let's go ahead and pull that open too. The Season 2, if you decide to pick it up, 6 more scenarios. Again, lots and lots of heroes, lots and lots of monsters. It's actually a couple of trays of miniatures, and some of the miniatures on this one are fairly large. Again, back in these kind of plasticky tray holders, which I'm not very fond of. But yeah, I haven't even gotten around to painting these yet. I will eventually, though. This is definitely a game I enjoy enough I would love to paint this up and just kind of have it done. I would have loved to have seen another Elder God inside of Season 2, but it's obviously more about scenarios and more characters and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's not a bad price. If I was going to get one extra thing, this would probably really add a lot of depth to the base game. I have not played against this guy yet. I've heard that the Black Goat of the Woods here is one of the hardest ones to beat. Now for the Black Goat of the Woods, you get, basically it's a little bit bigger box than you see inside the core box, but it's got a lot of the same components. You've got the different levels of this. As you defeat him, you kind of flip to the next card and the next card until he's dead. You get his minions, which is these core guys, and then these what are they called? The Dark Young that come inside this box. He's got his own set of Mythos cards that you'll be adding to the set of Mythos cards from the scenario. You kind of mix them together and that becomes your deck. Every round you're going to draw one of these, and for every 3 of these you get, the Doom track moves down. And this one comes probably with more miniatures. It's due to the nature of this guy and how he operates, but this one comes with a lot. This one really comes with the most amount of plastic for any of the Elder Gods as far as a box set goes. If you were going to buy one accessory right off the bat, I would probably go with this guy just to kind of mix up the Elder Gods. Of course, you can play each of these scenarios, one with one god and then play it again with a different god and get quite a bit of difference. And so with that in mind, this kind of takes the 6 episodes and makes them 12. And because we didn't always win some of these scenarios, I have found on a second play, it really does seem like a different game. You'd be surprised with a couple of unlucky rolls how quickly you can die. A downside or a good side, depending on your point of view of this game, might be that some of the games we've played have lasted a whopping 15 or 20 minutes because we just got utterly annihilated. I mean, the good part is it's easy to reset and just kind of start again, and this time maybe don't run directly into the room full of monsters. Particularly with new players, this is going to be an issue. It's kind of best just to let it happen and then reset and play the game again. Another really interesting thing about this game, though, is that the more players, and I believe it plays up to 5 people, but the more people that play, the faster the game is. Now, granted, you've got more people taking their turns, but it's real specific what you can do in your turn. And every turn that passes, you flip a Mythos card, and it kind of potentially moves the game along. So although you've got more people taking turns, every time someone takes a turn, they have to play a Mythos card, and the Mythos card is what pushes the game forward. So every 3 of these you get at the top of your Mythos card moves the circle down and eventually brings the Elder God into the world, where you have to fight him before here. Not a lot of circles here. So actually, the more people you play, the faster that happens. I found my best games are about 3 to 4 characters. Playing with 5 people, you get a lot done during your course of your turn, but things just happen so quickly that it can be kind of overwhelming. I mean, there is full potential for the Elder God to start really messing with people before you've even had your turn. But even with 3 people, these games are not that long. And it's really great to finally play a game that feels like a real involved game that doesn't take 4 or 5 hours. I've never played a game with this that's lasted more than maybe an hour and 20 minutes. And that's with a lot of AP thinking and overthinking your scenario. And so for all those reasons, Cthulhu Death May Die is definitely my favorite game of 2019 and a really, really great one to pick up. Even if you're just getting the box set, the basic box set, definitely consider it. It's a fantastic game. Probably my favorite CMON game ever made. So let me know if you want to see us face off against the Giant Cthulhu. I'd be curious to know. And I'd be curious to know if you picked up this game, what you think of it. Let me know in the comments down below. That's all I got for you now. Until we meet again, have a great day and play those games. See you soon. Hey folks, today we're going to take a...